struck by a falling object is when gravity kicks in and a worker, in the line of fire, gets hit by an object falling to a lower level. This includes being crushed, pinned, or caught beneath falling objects, which were in turn themselves hit by other objects. In other words, being on the wrong end of a domino effect. A lot of the work conducted on our job sites is at heights, whether it be from ladders, elevated work platforms, cranes, poles, or towers, and that's just to name a few. When objects fall from heights, size is contributory, but not the sole factor in estimating its potential for harm or damage. Case in point, consider a .357 round. Weighing in at less than a half ounce, it isn't much to look at. Not too threatening when someone pelts you with it, but you start putting muzzle velocity behind it, and it's going to make a mess of a person. And that's the way dropped and falling objects should be viewed as when they are rapidly closing distance. Projectiles at muzzle velocity that can make a mess of a person. A 3-inch curved washer weighing in at 12 ounces. When dropped from only 20 feet, it is going to have an impact force in the neighborhood of around 60 pounds. It only takes about 50 pounds of impact force to fracture the human skull. A 5/8 by 22-inch machine bolt weighing 2 pounds dropped from that same 20-foot height is going to be equivalent to around 122 pounds of impact force. The handle of a strap hoist weighs in at around 3.5 pounds. When dropped from 20 feet, will hit with about 213 pounds of impact force. A pull top pin and insulator, combination weight of 8 pounds. At a drop distance of 20 feet, is going to hit with about 488 pounds of force. Now there is, of course, PPE in the form of a hard hat to help protect workers against these types of drop hazards. However, PPE is not a free ticket for a worker to knowingly or carelessly place themselves in a line of fire. PPE is designed for those rare, unintentional, inadvertent, usually sudden, moments of oops. To put some perspective on it, Z89 hard hats are only required to pass a force transmission test of an 8-pound object falling 18 feet per second. That was the equivalent of that pull top pin with insulator we just saw, and we don't work on a whole lot of 20-foot poles out there. Objects dropped from higher locations are going to build up a lot more velocity, and this is going to equate to much more impact force. So much so that hard hats have been known to fail. And if they don't fail, then they may protect the scalp from lacerations, dents, and gouges. But, dependent on the amount of force involved, and if the hard hat was worn correctly, and if the object struck the hard hat just perfectly, any residual energies not absorbed by the hard hat and passed along to the worker can be enough to break a neck, pop or rupture discs, fracture the spine, result in a concussion, and even end in traumatic brain injury. To help mitigate the risk of being struck by a falling object during any kind of elevated work, a drop zone needs to be established. To do this, draw an imaginary vertical line between the ground and the aerial work location. Determine what this height is, cut that measurement in half, and make this new measurement the radius. This is the drop zone. The increased base dimension is to encompass any objects that may be dropped and continue with their arcing trajectory, or to include the dropped item that was deflected by an obstruction on its way down. There's going to be times when ground workers are going to have to be in that drop zone. This could be due to assisting in stabilizing hard guards, manning a hand line, backfilling holes, what have you. If this is the case, then communication is the key. Any ground worker having to enter the drop zone is to communicate that intention with the aerial worker. Once the aerial worker confirms the request and consents to it, then that ground worker is permitted to enter the drop zone. Don't get caught in the frame of mind that the drop zone is stationary. If the aerial work location is moving, then so is the drop zone. Not only that, but take into consideration any potential secondary effects, such as a crossarm failing at the next pole location, or a conductor splice separating mid-span. And remember, if anything is dropped from height, someone needs to start yelling, "Headache!" immediately. For ground workers, when this alarm is raised, don't look up. Dropped objects can go anywhere or be deflected anywhere. Unless someone is frantically yelling, "Run!" A ground worker's best defense is to suck in as much body mass in and beneath the umbrella of that full brim hard hat as possible. And a small prayer never hurts.